The sacred texts recount a pivotal moment in the history of humanity, a narrative known profoundly as the Fall. This foundational account details the origins of temptation, the act of transgression, and the far-reaching consequences that followed. It is a story that shapes our understanding of human nature and our relationship with the divine. At its heart, this narrative focuses on the disobedience of Adam and Eve, the first humans. Their actions in the Garden of Eden set in motion a chain of events that forever altered the course of existence for all humankind. This is not merely an ancient tale, but a profound theological statement. The story serves as a cornerstone for religious study, offering deep insights into moral lessons and theological discussions. It explores the delicate balance between free will and divine command, and the profound impact of choice. Understanding the fall is essential to grasping many subsequent religious doctrines. The narrative of the fall begins with the introduction of the serpent, who initiates the temptation. This creature enters the pristine garden, not as an overt enemy, but as a subtle deceiver. Its presence marks the beginning of a profound challenge to divine order. The serpent is portrayed as the most cunning of all the creatures God had made. This characteristic of shrewdness and guile is crucial to its role in the unfolding drama. Its intelligence is not used for good, but for manipulation and subversion. The serpent immediately questions God's command regarding the forbidden fruit. It asks, "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden?'" This seemingly innocent inquiry is a direct challenge to divine instruction. It plants a seed of doubt where none existed before. Through this questioning, the serpent subtly challenges God's authority. It implies that God's command might be arbitrary or restrictive, rather than benevolent. This tactic aims to undermine the trust between humanity and its Creator. The serpent then suggests that eating the fruit would grant divine knowledge. It promises an elevated understanding, a perception beyond their current state. This appeal to intellectual advancement is a powerful lure for beings created in God's image. Furthermore, it suggests that consuming the fruit would bestow divine awareness. This implies a heightened state of being, a perception of good and evil akin to God's own. The serpent paints a picture of enlightenment and empowerment, enticing them with a false promise of divinity. Initially, Eve exhibits a degree of hesitation when confronted by the serpent's claims. She recounts God's explicit command, demonstrating an awareness of the boundary set for them. Her initial response shows an understanding of the prohibition and its potential consequences. However, Eve is gradually persuaded by the serpent's insidious words. The cunning arguments and the promise of elevated status begin to erode her resolve. The serpent's rhetoric skillfully twists the truth, making disobedience seem like a path to greater good. Eve is also powerfully persuaded by the allure of the fruit itself. The text describes it as good for food, pleasing to the eye, and desirable for gaining wisdom. This sensory and intellectual appeal combines with the serpent's words to overcome her initial resistance. Yielding to this multifaceted temptation, Eve eats the forbidden fruit. This act marks the first direct transgression against God's clear command. It is a moment of profound significance, breaking the perfect harmony of creation. Following her own act of disobedience, Eve shares the fruit with Adam. He, too, partakes of it, fully aware of the divine prohibition. His decision to eat the fruit signifies a shared transgression, binding them both in the act of rebellion. Immediately after their transgression, Adam and Eve experience a profound shift in their perception. They become acutely aware of their nakedness, a state they had previously known without shame. This newfound awareness is a direct consequence of their disobedience. Their nakedness now symbolizes a lost innocence, a purity that was once inherent in their being. The simplicity and openness of their original state are shattered. A veil of self-consciousness descends upon them, altering their perception of themselves and each other. This awareness of nakedness quickly transforms into a deep sense of shame. They feel exposed and vulnerable, no longer comfortable in their own skin. The perfect harmony of their existence is replaced by an unsettling discomfort and self-reproach. In their shame and fear, they attempt to hide from God's presence among the trees of the garden. This act of concealment is a stark departure from their previous open communion with their Creator. It reveals a broken relationship and a desire to escape divine scrutiny. Their hiding reveals their profound fear of God's judgment and wrath. The intimate bond of trust is severed, replaced by apprehension. They anticipate the repercussions of their actions, seeking refuge from the very source of their being. Furthermore, their attempt to hide reveals their overwhelming guilt. The weight of their transgression presses upon them, driving them to avoid confrontation. This guilt is a new and painful experience, a direct result of their conscious choice to disobey. In the cool of the day, God confronts Adam and Eve, calling out to them in the garden. This confrontation is not merely an inquiry but a divine reckoning. It marks the beginning of accountability for their actions and the unraveling of their perfect world. This confrontation leads to a series of judgments pronounced upon each party involved in the transgression. These judgments are not arbitrary punishments, but consequences that naturally flow from their choices. They redefine the conditions of existence for all. The first judgment is pronounced upon the serpent. It is cursed above all livestock and wild animals. This curse signifies a profound degradation, stripping it of its former status and condemning it to a lowly existence. The serpent is destined to crawl on its belly and eat dust all the days of its life. This physical transformation symbolizes its utter humiliation and defeat. It represents a visible mark of its treachery and its diminished state. God also pronounces enmity between the serpent and the woman and between their offspring. This declaration foreshadows a perpetual conflict between good and evil, between humanity and the forces of temptation. It establishes a spiritual battle that will endure through generations. This enmity further foreshadows a future conflict, specifically mentioning that the woman's offspring will crush the serpent's head. This prophetic statement hints at a future victory over the forces of evil, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the pronouncements of judgment. Next, judgment is pronounced upon the woman. She is condemned to increased pain in childbirth, a direct consequence affecting her most fundamental role. This pain symbolizes the hardship and suffering that will now accompany the bringing forth of new life. Furthermore, she will experience a complex and often challenging relationship with her husband. Her desire will be for him, yet he will rule over her. This pronouncement introduces an element of struggle and imbalance into the marital relationship, a departure from original equality. Finally, judgment is pronounced upon Adam. He is cursed with toil and hardship in his labor. Because he listened to his wife and ate from the forbidden tree, the ground itself is cursed on his account, making his work arduous. He will struggle to obtain food from the ground, which will now yield thorns and thistles. His sustenance will come only through painful labor and the sweat of his brow. This judgment transforms his work from joyful stewardship into a burdensome struggle for survival. Despite the profound transgression and the pronouncements of judgment, God demonstrates remarkable compassion. Even in their fallen state, God does not abandon Adam and Eve entirely. This act reveals a deeper aspect of divine character. God provides Adam and Eve with clothing, making garments of animal skins for them. This act of covering their nakedness is a practical demonstration of care and protection. It addresses their shame and vulnerability, offering a measure of comfort. This provision of clothing demonstrates God's enduring desire to protect and care for them, even after their disobedience. It is an act of grace, mitigating some of the immediate physical consequences of their sin. It shows that judgment is tempered with mercy. However, a further, necessary consequence follows. God banishes them from the Garden of Eden. This expulsion is not merely punitive, but preventative. It is to prevent them from eating from the tree of life in their fallen state. To live eternally in their state of sin and separation would be a greater tragedy. The banishment ensures that their corrupted nature does not become immortalized. It is a merciful act to prevent an even more profound and permanent spiritual decay. To enforce this banishment and guard the path to the tree of life, God places cherubim and a flaming sword. This formidable barrier symbolizes a permanent separation from the source of eternal life. It underscores the gravity of their transgression and the impossibility of returning to their former state through their own efforts.